Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where every day I go to a different part of the world to explore how technology is transforming life, business, and indeed our world. And I'm going to start today's episode with a question outside of Silicon Valley. Where is said to have the largest amount of tech startups? I'll give you a little clue. It's often called the next Silicon Valley and even referred to as the startup nation. Anyone? The answer is Tel Aviv in Israel. And I must admit, I wasn't too surprised because I think I've spoken with 10 startups from the region in the last month alone. But I'm also hearing about the high-tech revolution that's engulfing big cities such as Berlin, Shenzhen in China, Lisbon, Portugal, Stockholm, Sweden. And it's got me thinking, wherever you're listening to this podcast in the world, if you would like to put your hometown or your city on the map, please email me now, techblogwriter@outlook.com. I'd love to hear from you directly because I'm passionate about getting all these stories out there and understanding how technology is reshaping our world. But today, I'm going to be speaking with Ira Cohen from a company called Anodot, and he's going to be talking about how to leverage machine learning to tap into human perception and identify critical business incidents. And they also have a pretty cool COVID-19 tracker dashboard where you pretty much select where you live and it will give you a wealth of information and statistics that are updated continuously. So if all that sounds like fun to you, come with me all the way to Tel Aviv, where I'm assured that there are empty beaches at the moment, which has made me a little bit jealous, I've got to admit. So we can speak with Ira Cohen all about Anodot and much more. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thank you for having me. So a little bit about my background. So first, my name is Ira Cohen. My background is in machine learning. I did my PhD in machine learning, specifically in machine learning in the University of Illinois, working a lot on identifying objects in videos. But since I graduated back in 2003, I've worked a lot on data that is related to time. So applying machine learning to anything that you measure over time. That's my personal background. In 2014, late 2014, I met with David Ray, who is Anodot CEO, and he basically presented a problem that is the problem that Anodot is solving, which is transforming his BI and analytics into something that is real-time, actionable, and monitors his business constantly. Just to give you a background, at the time he was CTO of a Uber-like competitor called GetTaxi, and he had data coming in about everything that happens in the business. How many people are taking taxis? How many taxi drivers have logged in? Payment information, registration information, drives, errors on their servers. Everything was being collected in real time and thrown into a BI system, out of which came dashboards and reports. But these reports and dashboards would not alert on a problem, or would actually alert you on a problem when it was already happening for a long time. And the reason was, because it relied on humans to either look at it and identify that something happened, or it relied on static alerts, which were only catching the really, really big things, the bad things, the really big bad things, the obvious bad things. So it meant that a lot of incidents went undiscovered for a long time, 12 hours, 24 hours, which meant they were losing a lot of money. He couldn't find a solution out there, but he heard about machine learning. And he heard, and we met, and I told him, yeah, there is a solution for this using machine learning to do monitoring. And since there is no good solution out there, we decided to open a company, and that's how we started.
And when I was researching you guys, Anodot's business monitoring platform, what really stood out for me was how it uses machine learning to constantly analyze every metric, providing those real-time alerts and forecasts in their context. But for many people listening, they will hear the word machine learning and just discount it as a buzzword. So can you tell me a little bit more about how businesses can actually leverage machine learning to tap into that human perception and start identifying critical business incidents more?
Right. So the first part of the question is what do we solve for the customer? What is business monitoring? Let's define that a little bit. And business monitoring is basically looking at all aspects of the business to identify any incident. So let me give a few examples that we know our customers are getting a lot of benefits out of our system. First one is looking at monitoring any type of revenue data and cost data. So for example, revenue data would be how many purchases are done online if you're in e-commerce, or how many freemium customers have I turned into premium customers, or what's my revenue streams from ads if I am a publisher and I have a lot of ad spaces, or if I'm a gaming company and my revenue is from ads. So monitoring those streams is really critical. Another aspect is partner monitoring. So looking at most companies are leveraging partners in their both technical partners inside their applications. So if I'm using Google Maps within my application, Google is my partner. It's a technical partner. If I'm using a payment provider to actually get transactions done within my application because I'm in e-commerce, then that payment provider is my partner. So I need to monitor them to know that they are functioning okay as well. And there are also affiliates, partners that are affiliates, and I need to know about them. They push traffic to me, or I push traffic to them, and we have some business relationship. So all of these cases are what I would call business monitoring. And basically, machine learning is important for doing business monitoring because it excels at three main things. First of all, it excels at being very scalable. So machine learning. So let's say you're trying to detect that there is an issue with revenue stream that you have. If you have just one revenue stream, you can sit somebody in front of a monitor and have them look at it all day long. And whenever something happens, they will probably detect it with their eyes because we have very good visual anomaly detection capabilities. But if you now have 1,000 revenue streams or 10,000 different permutation of your revenue streams, then you can't sit humans to view it. Machine learning excels at analyzing all of these streams constantly, so it's very scalable. The second thing is speed. It can do it fast, very fast, probably much faster than humans can. And so you get it to look at thousands to millions to billions of these streams and do it very fast. And in many cases, it could be even more accurate than humans, or at least as accurate as humans. So you're getting accuracy, speed, and scale out of machine learning. And actually, whenever I talk to anybody who tells me I want to use machine learning for problem A or problem B, I ask them if you are convinced that using machine learning is important because of either scale, accuracy, or speed. So you have to answer yes to one of these three questions. Machine learning will give me more scale, or more accuracy, or faster, and it's important for me to be faster. Then you should use machine learning. Otherwise, it probably doesn't make sense to use machine learning to solve that problem.
And for many business leaders listening, especially when it comes to technology and especially in the current climate, they will automatically think of, this is great, but what's the ROI of this technology? So for those people listening, can you offer any examples of what glitches actually cost companies across multiple industries right now and how you're helping with that?
Yeah, sure. And actually, first of all, we know some aggregate numbers from some of our customers. For example, we have one customer that didn't estimate, actually, they measured it over a period of a year and a half, and they saw that by doing monitoring with machine learning, meaning that they do it at much higher scale than manual and much faster results, they saved about 80% of their incident cost year over year, which translated to millions. But let me give you a few kind of concrete examples where you can measure your ROI. One of the packages that we have is monitoring cloud cost. So if you're using a cloud, anybody uses any public cloud knows that you pay by demand usually. And the problem with that is that sometimes glitches happen, meaning that it could be that somebody released a new version that caused a lot of queries to be done on a database, Redshift or BigQuery or any one of those databases. Those databases you pay by the query. So if now you're creating 1,000 times more queries, then you're paying 1,000 times more. And we've had plenty of cases where we alerted to a customer an hour or two later when they released something that caused huge spikes in cloud cost. There was one customer that saw like 1,000% increase in their cloud cost hour by hour just because of one mistake that some developer made. And in typical, without automated monitoring or autonomous monitoring, they would discover it probably after, not less than a day. And a day in that case would have cost them like $10,000, and that wasn't even a big account. So cloud cost. Another example. So we have various payment companies that use us, and they monitor payment success rate because whenever they do not process successfully payments, it means they're not getting revenues. And they have a lot of glitches happening in terms of payment success rate because of all sorts of reasons. One great example was they have a fraud detection model in production that looks at every transaction and this determines whether it's fraudulent or not, and blocks it if it thinks it's fraudulent. And that model in production actually had a glitch in itself. And it was actually rejecting a lot more transactions than normal. And of course, that means those transactions were not going through. And if you don't detect that and you don't understand that this is happening, you are very reactive. And only after several days, somebody will complain and you'll figure out that you have a problem. In their case, they discovered it after a few minutes. And they basically estimated the saving to be, tens of thousands of dollars an hour if it went on. So that's another example. Third example is a lot of marketing departments do run campaigns, marketing campaigns. And it's very hard to keep these campaigns efficient unless you're monitoring them. What do I mean efficient? I'll give you an example that happened to one of our customers. They ran a marketing campaign. Google Ads marketing campaign, and they put a list. Usually, when you started, you put a list of keywords that you want to bid on, and that's how your campaign runs. And it spends money bidding on these keywords based on policies that you create. In one of these campaigns, and companies spend millions. I mean, if you're a big enterprise, you spend millions of these of dollars on a year on these campaigns, and you run thousands of these campaigns. So it's very hard to track them, unless you do it automatically and monitoring it automatically. So in one interesting example that we saw for one company, they had a campaign in AdWords that all of a sudden had, and it was running smoothly. I mean, it had some efficiency in terms of clicks, so conversions to clicks, and the cost was in line. And all of a sudden, there was an anomaly where the cost went up dramatically, the cost per click, and the number of clicks dropped. And so we alerted to them immediately, and they looked at it, and what they found is that there was one keyword that they had in that bundle of campaign that became very popular because of some news article. And it meant that, and it was unrelated to what they were trying to advertise. And because of that news article that was became very popular, the cost for that keyword went up because there were a lot of other companies bidding on that keyword. But it didn't result in better conversions because that article was not enough to generate more interest in what they were trying to sell. So by removing the keyword from the campaign, it went back on track. The cost per click went down. The number of clicks actually returned to normal, and the campaign basically did not lose money. They saw in the past similar cases where it would cost them approximately $2,000 an hour if gone unfixed. So this is kind of the ratios of how much ROI you get out of it. And we're trying to collect for our users the ROI that they get in all of these cases. A lot of times it translates to direct money, like these three examples.
And for people listening that are thinking, wow, they can see the scale of that problem, what is it they should be doing to prevent these glitches, and how are you helping businesses prevent them as well?
Yeah. So just like with the COVID-19, the monitor, test. So here you need to monitor. I mean, if you monitor everything, and what does it mean to monitor everything? First, collect the data at fine granularity. But then monitoring, well, if you don't have a lot of data, you can put it in a dashboard and you can manually monitor. But if you're even 100 people company, or you have a lot of data, then it will be very hard to manually monitor. So the right thing to do is to apply some automated system that can alert you on anything strange that is happening with all of this monitoring data. So just collecting the data into some repository is not enough. That's not monitoring. That's just collection. You need something to observe the data constantly, so you can actually detect what's happening. And again, that's what we built, and I strongly believe this is the right approach to do it. To do it automatically and at scale. Anything else, unless you can hire an army of people very cheaply, would probably not catch everything you need.
And I'm curious, are seasonality issues and daily week patterns essential to tracking for these accurate insights? Because I would imagine they've got to spend a big part in it as well.
Oh yeah, so it's actually critical to detect seasonality, because if you don't detect that there are seasonal patterns within the data, the system that analyzes the data either produces a lot of false positives or doesn't detect anything. It's useless. So any automated machine learning monitoring system, anything that does anomaly detection automatically using machine learning, it needs to learn the way it works. It learns what's normal. To learn what's normal, it needs to know the behavior of the data that it's doing the normal model about. And seasonality is an important aspect of learning what's normal. What's interesting is, though, that not everything that is being monitored exhibits any seasonal patterns, daily or weekly patterns. You can't assume that it's going to happen. You have to actually have an algorithm to detect it. We see in our system, and we collect millions of metrics from lots of different companies, hundreds of millions of metrics from lots of different companies. The percentage of metrics that do exhibit seasonal patterns is about 15%. Only 15% of the data exhibits any seasonality. So you can't assume seasonality for everything, because then for everything else, the models would be very poor. And it's not just daily and weekly patterns. We see a lot of different patterns in data, from bi-weekly to hourly seasonal patterns to 12-hour seasonal patterns to 3 hours. It really depends on what's behind the scene. It is true that a lot of things that you measure that is driven by human behavior does exhibit the daily and weekly patterns. But it can be a lot of different patterns, even the daily and weekly patterns.
And I'm curious, is someone working right in the heart of this? Have you seen the data scientist role evolve over the past decade? And how do you think it will continue to evolve throughout this year and beyond as well?
Yeah, so yeah, definitely it's evolving. I think what is happening, at least in the last couple of years, is that the data scientist role is being separated into multiple roles instead of one name. What do I mean by that? you're now seeing machine learning engineering roles. You're seeing data scientists that are more analysts roles, meaning that they provide insights to their organization. So they take tools and apply it to data and then see the insights. The machine learning engineer would actually implement an algorithm or implement a product or implement a pipeline for the data science analyst to use. And you see also data engineers as part of data science groups that are in charge of wrangling the data and creating the data pipelines. So it's basically the role is kind of splitting. You see data scientists becoming product managers because that's one of the challenges of data science teams to actually communicate well what the functionality should be of the product they're creating. So the main evolution is the splitting of this data scientist role into more specific roles instead of having generalists, as we've seen in the first, I would say, 7 years of this decade.
And looking as well at the current trends in data analytics, I would imagine everything's a bit up in the air at the moment, but what current trends are you seeing, and how do you think those trends are going to impact companies looking into the future as well in a post-pandemic world?
Yeah, so pre-pandemic, I would say that the trend was using machine learning more and more, and there were a lot of different projects within enterprises, data science teams that are working on various projects that took some of the tasks that were always in the BI team, kind of more manual querying tasks and discovering of insights, and using machine learning to do that, and then giving the analysts the power to make recommendations or actually translate the insights into actions. So that was pre COVID-19. I think this will still happen post COVID-19, but what's happening in the meantime that we are starting to see a little bit is that the projects that have not gone to fruition yet, that have not shown clear ROI and results, are getting scaled down, while there is more emphasis on things that were on projects that involve machine learning where the ROI is very clear. It's fairly immediate and not long term. So, for example, anything that we see it in the cloud cost monitoring, right? If you're monitoring your cloud cost and you can ensure that you reduce your cost because you prevent all these glitches from inflating your cloud cost, your cloud bill, then this project has priority and it's proven. So it's basically transforming the field from where there were a lot of projects with no clear ROIs in the horizon to less projects, but with very clear ROI on the horizon. And I think this is the trend that we'll see right now, which is it's not a bad trend to have, because I was always concerned about all these projects being done in enterprises where, other than saying marketing wise, where you're doing machine learning, there were no clear return on investment and clear benefits for doing the machine learning that were defined a priori. And now it will focus all these projects to the ones that really mean a lot. It will show good results to skeptic managers and executives. And I think then after the corona stops, because all these projects will be successful, show ROI, the appetite for doing a lot more will be even bigger, and people will know how to frame them in a way that provides ROI.
And speaking about that horizon, what's next for you guys at Anodot? Is there anything else you can share with me about the road ahead and what your main focus is going to be?
Yeah, sure. Of course. So in terms of the product itself, what we're focusing on right now is creating very simple to use business packages. And we're actually focusing on the use cases that we know help companies save money today, because this is the I would say the future, short-term future, right? I mean, so the focus of many companies, they want to save jobs, they want to save their bottom line. So one way of saving jobs and saving bottom line is to actually reduce your costs You reduce costs that are not people, like cloud cost, and also prevent any revenue leaks. Revenue leaks are killers, and in normal times people maybe don't pay as much attention to it, but now it's really critical. So if your payment system is not processing payments at the same rate, you want to know it as quickly as possible, because you're losing money. And if you lose money, you might, in this environment, it's a very bad thing. Another thing that's important in these business packages to keep your existing customers happy. So customer experience monitoring is really critical. So we're creating these business packages right now to make it very simple to use. They're smaller, so people can sign up quickly and get the benefit as quickly as possible. That's shorter term things that we're doing. In terms of the product itself, the roadmap that we have for it, in the product itself, we do anomaly detection and correlation, meaning that we help with root cause analysis. The next step for that is to, in some cases, you can perform automatic remediation of an anomaly detected. And because we have our correlation techniques, and we know how to define an anomaly and all the things that happen within an incident, tying it to automatic remediation is the next logical step. And we also have a part of our product that does forecasting, which forecasts things like demand forecasting, demanding how many people are going to buy a certain product, how many people are going to use my service or use a part of my service, use my network, and so on. So we already have that today. The next step for that is to add what-if analysis. So this is in terms of the product itself. So I would say these are the three main things that we're focusing on right now.
Fantastic. And before we started recording today, you did show me your COVID-19 dashboard as well, which is incredibly cool. So for anyone that would like to just check that out as well, or find out more information about Anodot, or even contact your team, could you just point them in the direction of where they can do that?
Yeah, so the best place to start to read and see what we're doing is our webpage. So it's anodot.com, anodot.com. If you want to actually get anomaly alerts and view our dashboards for corona data, just search for Anodot and coronavirus alerts. You will get to that page. You can subscribe, just put your email. This is free, and this is for the corona. If you want to monitor, we are actually doing additional activities with healthcare providers to try to leverage our systems for monitoring patients, but that is very early stages. That's not our business, but we do believe that it can help healthcare providers in this crisis, especially because the scale of it is so much higher than normal times. That remote monitoring and automated monitoring, even in those cases, is becoming a lot more important. So you can find all that information on our website. And if you want to message me directly, you can send me a message on LinkedIn. And I usually answer within 24 hours.
Well, I'll add all those links to the blog post that will accompany this podcast so people can find you nice and easy. But thanks so much for coming on today. I think for any business leader there that just wants to try and understand how they can leverage machine learning to tap into human perception and start identifying those critical business incidents, I think today's episode was a great intro into that. And I hope people do reach out and contact you as a result. But more than anything, just a big thank you for taking the time to come and share the great work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil, and keep healthy.
Anodot Autonomous Analytics is a machine learning anomaly detection platform that essentially independently monitors business metrics and locates critical incidents. And this turnkey solution seems to automatically learn behavioural patterns with time series data so that it can immediately pinpoint anomalies across a large scale and continuously anticipate future values. But I just love how that pioneering technology is also trusted across multiple industries such as telco, eCommerce, fintech, adtech, gaming. But they're just a few things that I took away. But this podcast is not about me and my opinions or just the guest. It's about you too. And hopefully between us all, we might learn a thing together along the way. So please send in your emails, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, and my website is techblogwriter.co.uk. But the sun is shining here in the West Midlands in the UK too, so I'm going to sit in my garden and try and build a base town ready for the summer. Because I don't think I've got much chance for getting to a beach this summer, but first world problems and all that. So a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.